What if I told you that one single game could rewrite an entire franchise's history books? 6 records shattered, a rookie phenom igniting an entire arena, and a team once dismissed as a rebuilding project suddenly forcing the entire league to pay attention. That's exactly what happened when Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever went head-to-head with the Seattle Storm in a matchup that will be talked about for years. This wasn't just a win, it was a statement. A warning shot to the rest of the WNBA that the Fever aren't here to participate. They're here to dominate. Tonight, we're diving deep into how the Indiana Fever broke 6 incredible records in their thrilling victory over the Storm, why Caitlin Clark's fire and leadership changed the tone of the game, and what this means not just for the Fever, but for the future of the WNBA as a whole. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly why this wasn't just another game. It was a seismic moment in women's basketball history. So buckle in, because we're about to relive every jaw-dropping play, every record-breaking stat, and every ounce of intensity that made this game unforgettable. The Fever entered the game carrying a heavy weight of expectation. Ever since Caitlin Clark was drafted #1 overall, the narrative around the team shifted dramatically. Suddenly, a franchise that had spent years in the shadows was being thrust into primetime. But with attention comes pressure, and critics were quick to argue that one rookie couldn't turn around an entire team. That set the stage for this game against the Seattle Storm, one of the league's most respected franchises and a team loaded with veteran talent. From the opening tip, it was clear something different was in the air. Clark, usually measured in her body language, came out visibly fired up, clapping, directing traffic, and even talking to her teammates in a way that screamed confidence. The Fever's pace immediately quickened, and the Storm, though seasoned, looked stunned by Indiana's intensity. The first record fell almost without notice. The Fever opened the game with their highest-scoring first quarter in franchise history. Their ball movement was crisp, their energy relentless, and Caitlin's fingerprints were all over it. Whether she was hitting logo threes, threading passes through impossible gaps, or drawing double teams that freed her teammates, Clark was the engine, and the Storm simply couldn't keep up. As the game wore on, the Fever shattered more records. The second came midway through the second quarter, the team's highest number of three-pointers in a half. Clark, of course, was leading the charge, but what made it special was how her presence elevated everyone else. Kelsey Mitchell found her rhythm on the perimeter. Aaliyah Boston was punishing defenders inside, and suddenly the Storm's defense looked completely overwhelmed. But the records weren't just about offense. The Fever's third record of the night came on the defensive end, the fewest points allowed in a half against a Seattle Storm team in over a decade. This wasn't just Caitlin scoring. This was a collective defensive effort sparked by her energy. The Fever trapped, rotated, and communicated in a way fans hadn't seen in years. The crowd, sensing history in the making, rose to their feet in deafening approval. And then came the moment at the 4-minute mark of the third quarter that turned the game from impressive to iconic. Clark, already with a double-double in points and assists, pulled up from nearly half court. The ball swished cleanly through the net, and the entire stadium erupted. But more than the shot itself, it was what it represented. Caitlin was rewriting what was possible on the WNBA floor. That three-pointer sealed her place in the record books for the 4th milestone of the night. Most threes in a single game by a Fever rookie. Now, if you thought the records were done, think again. Late in the 4th quarter, Clark dished her 14th assist, breaking the franchise single-game assist record. What's remarkable is how she balanced scoring with playmaking. By this point, the Storm had resorted to trapping her every time she crossed half court. But instead of forcing shots, Clark played chess. She found cutters, shooters, and open looks in every corner, turning defensive pressure into offensive fireworks. That's record number 5. And then, with less than a minute left, the 6th record came. The Fever had scored their highest single-game point total in franchise history. Think about that. In one game, they broke scoring records in the first quarter, the half, and the full game. This wasn't luck. It was systematic domination, orchestrated by a rookie who looked like anything but. At this point, the Fever weren't just playing for the win. They were playing for respect, for validation, for a shift in narrative that had long painted them as underdogs. And in that moment, with the crowd chanting MVP, MVP for Caitlin Clark, you could feel it. The tide of the WNBA was turning. But let's pause here for a second, because here's the question every fan is asking. Is this just one magical game, or is this the start of something bigger? Can the Fever sustain this energy, this chemistry, and this level of execution through the grind of a full season? Hold on to that thought, because the answer might surprise you. As we approach the climax of this story, let's not forget the emotional undercurrent of this night. Caitlin Clark wasn't just playing basketball, she was playing with fire, proving to doubters that she belongs, that she can elevate an entire franchise, and that women's basketball is entering a new era where records aren't just broken, they're obliterated. The biggest takeaway from this game isn't just the records themselves, it's the message they carry, the seismic ripple they send across the entire league. For years, the Indiana Fever were written off as a franchise in waiting, a team that other organizations looked past, a name buried at the bottom of standings with fans clinging to maybe next year. But tonight shattered that narrative. Tonight, they weren't the background story or the rebuilding project. They became the center of the basketball universe. Caitlin Clark, still in her very first season, didn't just play well. She orchestrated the game with the presence of someone who has been doing this for a decade. Her vision stretched beyond the hardwood, her confidence electrified the building, and her performance forced the cameras, the critics, and even her opponents to admit that something has changed. This wasn't just about putting up numbers on a stat sheet. It was about rewriting the way the Fever are viewed, and by extension, redefining the power structure of the league itself. What this night means is simple. The Indiana Fever can no longer be ignored. Broadcasters will stop passing on their games because they now carry the weight of must-see television. Opponents, once relaxed when Indiana came to town, will now sharpen their focus, knowing a storm is brewing in the form of number 22. And fans, those who had drifted, those who only tuned in casually, and even those who doubted the WNBA's drawing power, will find themselves pulled back in because they're watching a revolution in real time. The statement made on this floor goes beyond basketball. It's about legitimacy, about respect, and about a rookie who is erasing the word future from her description and replacing it with now. Caitlin Clark isn't waiting her turn. She's taking it, and in doing so, she's lifting her entire franchise with her. The Indiana Fever are no longer the team on the margins. They're not rebuilding, they're not just learning, and they're certainly not waiting. They've arrived. And with Clark at the helm, the question isn't how high the ceiling is, it's whether there even is one at all. When the final buzzer sounded, the Fever had not only beaten the Seattle Storm, they had cemented one of the most historic wins in franchise history. 6 records broken, a rookie putting up numbers no one thought possible this early, and a team feeding off the energy of its leader to deliver a complete performance on both ends of the floor. But more than that, this game was a glimpse into the future. A future where the Indiana Fever are contenders. A future where Caitlin Clark isn't just the face of the franchise, she's one of the faces of the league. A future where fans can look back on nights like this and say, that's when everything changed. So what does this mean for the Fever moving forward? It means they now carry the weight of expectation, but also the confidence of knowing they can rise to the occasion. It means every young fan watching tonight has a reason to believe in the growth of the WNBA. And it means we're witnessing the dawn of a new era, one where the Fever are not just part of the conversation, they're leading it. And that's why this win, these 6 records, and Caitlin Clark's fiery performance matter so much. They're not just stats, they're symbols. Symbols of change, of growth, and of the limitless potential of women's basketball. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay locked in on every historic moment Caitlin Clark and the Fever create this season, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell us in the comments. What do you think was the most impressive record from this game? Was it Caitlin's deep threes, the assists, or the overall team dominance? This is just the beginning. The Fever are rising, and the WNBA will never be the same.